All right. Everybody, welcome to another episode of Qumulex Radio. I am Josh. With me, as always, almost always, is my co-host and friend, Aaron Newman. And today's special guest, we have Drew Pacino from Axis, which is a really great partner for us and a really well-known and respected manufacturer here in the industry. So, Drew, just in case somebody's not from our industry and watching this, how would you describe, first of all, yourself, and then just a little bit about what Axis is?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks guys for having me on. Thanks, Aaron and Josh. Drew Pacino, I'm the business development manager for our Axis Technology Integration Partner Program, which really means that I work with all the different software companies, hardware companies who are trying to integrate to Axis devices. And to take that a step further or a step back, I guess, if you're not familiar with Axis, we started as a IoT company making print servers back in the 80s. And as legend goes, our founder was playing around with some devices in the office. He found a pile of old analog cameras, and being the true engineer he is, he took it as a challenge and he said, "Hey, why can't I put these on the network too?" And after a couple of years of tinkering, in '96, Axis released the first network camera to the market. So back then, it was quite different than you would see today. I think the first camera, the NetEye, could do one frame, record one frame every 17 seconds on 4CF resolution.
Oh, wow.
And just for context, now there's cameras in the market that could do 180 frames a second, probably even more, who knows. So it's evolved quite a bit since then. But Axis has always remained an IoT company. And while people know us for the cameras, there's all sorts of other things too, like access control, network audio, radars, strobe sirens, you name it, kind of anything you can add to those types of products. Then that's something that we're either offering ourselves or in the ecosystem of. But of course, the bread and butter is really cameras, and I think that's what most people associate Axis with.
Well, certainly that's a big one people think of, but I would say over the last 10, maybe more years, I mean, Axis has really diversified, and you were the first door controller, for our access control that we were compatible with, and still work with you on that. So, Axis has a lot to offer. It's been interesting to watch your organization grow. That's an interesting story, though. I mean, I'd heard pieces of that before, but I never had the origin story put together that way. I mean, it's curiosity, it's the mother of all innovation, isn't it? It's that thing that you're kind of interested in or you're passionate about, and you just have an interest, and look what results. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
It's really funny too, because you make something and then customer sees it and they always, okay, well, what's next? Or this is cool, but can it do that? So I also think a lot of the early camera innovations were things based on what customers were asking for. Like, the camera worked for inside use, but then you have a customer that says, "Hey, I want to go put this and monitor outside areas where it's cold." So then we're forced to develop outdoor housings and things like that. So everything is just really an evolution of what someone's asking for, which is pretty fascinating.
One frame's kind of hard to get your mind around in today's world.
Yeah,
but that had to be pretty amazing, just to see it there. It's almost like a PowerPoint.
Yep.
At that,
I don't know if that would fly for a lot of customers these days, but
not these days. But wow, that's very cool. Well, speaking of innovation, one of the things I wanted to talk about today was just, obviously people think of Axis, they think of cameras, or they think of these other edge devices, these IoT devices that you're innovating with. I mean, what are the innovations that we're seeing now at the edge?
Yeah, I think you're seeing a revolution of a lot more power coming to the edge in terms of compute. Axis manufactures our own chips, and as a benefit of that, they're able to kind of tweak what worked for video, right? And maybe optimizing what you could use for video and then analytics. And I think the analytics piece is something that's really come to light the past couple of years, and we're seeing things that we never really saw before. I guess one example is that Axis cameras, when you purchase a new Axis camera, they can all run some sort of analytics at the edge. And that's not to say that they technically couldn't, because even going back to 2000, like video motion detection is technically an analytic. but now, you can run classification of people, vehicles, all at the edge without needing more model training or anything like that. So that's really cool to me, and I think that it can be something basic that when you pull the camera out of the box, right, it can detect a person or a vehicle now. But what makes it even cooler is that you can send those processing that you pulled on the edge device, the camera, to the cloud, and from there, the possibilities are really infinite. It's you can take the data and interpret it however you want to. So we're seeing more of a hybrid architecture where you can utilize the edge, and the edge is more powerful than ever before. But then you can send that up to the cloud for basically to do whatever you want with it in terms of these different cloud providers providing analytics or whatever it may be. So I think that the possibilities of what a customer can do when they buy a camera now are much greater than they were 5-10 years ago, and it's probably only going to increase from here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we believe that. I mean, we built our whole architecture around, open, working through OnViv, and then pulling those analytic events through the OnViv profile and allowing customers to use smart tags to search on that. So, all that innovation that you're putting at the edge, putting that on the camera, then we're able to utilize that. And then of course that does sync up with our cloud. So yeah, somehow or another around here, we always like that hybrid approach, trying to get the best of both worlds. I mean, do you think the real innovation, maybe medium and long term, is it going to continue to be with like more and better analytics? Do you think that there are other innovations that are, that we're going to see? Obviously, there's probably some things you can't talk about because they're not on the street yet. But what do you see happening there?
Yeah, I think that stuff will naturally increase. I mean, analytics is such a broad word. It's almost like what does it really
True.
mean when people talk about analytics and machine learning and deep learning? And I think a lot of times it just means doing little things better. Getting less false alarms of a squirrel crossing the screen, things like that. So I think we'll see a lot of processes improve and things become more efficient, which is fantastic. I think that you're also kind of opening the world a little bit beyond security when you enter that world where it's maybe it's not just a camera for seeing if somebody's shoplifting. It's seeing retail behavior in a store, and are people going to certain displays and things like that. So it's kind of moving into business intelligence beyond security, and I think that it's just opening up eyes in terms of, okay, well, what can we do with this equipment? I mean, obviously the edge compute is just going to get better and better, right?
Yeah.
So you'll be able to do more things and then send to cloud providers for more complex use cases. So it's pretty interesting because they're seeing that evolve so fast, right? It's
Yeah.
like things that were seemed crazy a couple years ago are very normal now. So I probably can't even imagine what's going to happen the next 3 to 5 years, but edge compute is certainly one thing, and another kind of important thing with that is image quality, which keeps improving. And if you're talking about analytics or really anything, if you put bad data in, you're going to get bad data out. So it's very important to make sure that we're improving image quality so that when you get into these complex questions and use cases, that you're really feeding it good data.
Absolutely. And I mean, what's interesting to me too is, these analytics now, there are certain analytics that I think we're almost taking for granted that have replaced entire subsystems that customers used to spend a lot of money on. So, I mean, 15, 20 years ago, as an integrator, I used to put in these people counter systems at shopping malls, for example, so that, they could kind of track the amount of traffic that were coming back and forth. And there were some other elements to it, but the primary was to understand where the traffic was, how many people were coming and going, what time of day. I mean, your cameras can do that now. Like many of your cameras that just off the shelf, you could enable that, and you could even produce like a heat map in many cases, from that. So, I mean, it's just really impressive to me that these devices are adding so much value. And it seems like, the pricing is still, in a pretty affordable range for everybody. I mean, if we see the growth of the industry, the amount of cameras people buying, it's not like this is adding exponential cost. It's really just kind of adding value to the cost that they're already paying. So,
Mhm.
and now if you talk to somebody about, doing a count based on crossing a line in a camera, I don't think anybody would think that's very wild. You know,
Not at all.
we just kind of take that for granted now. Do you still hear a lot of, because I feel like maybe, and I don't know when this started and when it trailed off, but I feel like I used to hear a lot of debate about the value of processing at the edge versus centrally processing. Do you still hear from customers, or do you hear a lot of discussion about, whether that distributed processing model adds value, where having these analytics process at the edge and then feeding centrally more as an event, whether that adds efficiency to the network, or is that because of the scale of everybody's tech now? Is that even a concern anymore?
I think it does still add value, and what it really does is just offer flexibility. It gives people the option to do what they want. With kind of cloud, it's really infinite scalability, right? So you could, what's wild is that you could have hundreds of devices and roll them out to a retail store, and for your software not actually have to be in that storage to put them together. So I think in that case, it's 100% valuable. It's amazing to them, right? Now there are certainly other cases where you wouldn't do that, and where you might need a server on site, or different things happening. But the important part is that the flexibility is giving customers more options to do what they want, rather than us to tell them, hey, no, you have to do it. You have to do it ABC, and there's no other way. I
Right.
don't think anyone is really in favor of that method. It appears to be going away a little bit.
Yeah. So another thing that I've noticed too that I've been really excited about is, I don't remember the year that it came out, but you started an access control, I feel, with that A1001
Mhm.
many years ago. And, some would have maybe seen that as kind of a me too, or kind of just kind of a foot into the market and see where it goes. I mean, your access control product line has grown tremendously. And you've even had some new panels have come out in the last year. If you think of your 2N product line, that kind of marries in on the intercom side. I saw, we have another co-friend in Life Safety Power. Yes, I see that, they have cabinets now that are supporting your modules. I mean, talk a little bit about, what's the vision for the access control product line with Access, because it seems like you're taking that very seriously and putting a lot of effort into producing more and more products, that are access control related.
Yeah, I think the vision from the beginning was really that it's just complementary to what we're doing already. A lot of people that have a camera system also have an access control system, and you can tie those things together and talk to each other. What we found, and this is probably before my time, is that a lot of the systems were kind of difficult to work with.
Mhm.
They locked you in, and maybe it was very complex to set things up, and not cost effective for the customer to switch at all. So the value proposition of the door controllers originally was really open architecture, and saying, hey, here's our controller. It does these things very well, and you can use whatever else you want. You can use whatever software, whatever reader. We're not going to tell you what to pick for that piece. We just want to be a part of the system. So I think people really appreciated that, and it's allowing them to move faster, and change things, or adjust things, when they need to, and kind of not get stuck with a bunch of equipment that's not meeting their needs anymore. So the vision is really just open architecture, and being best of breed, and offering this controller, uh, you know, to a customer, and letting them pick whatever else they want to use.
No, I
And
love that
it's
approach. I mean, that's something that we're trying to accomplish. Is similar, where we're trying to offer a lot of flexibility in terms of the hardware that you can use, and that access control world is very different than video. I mean, video has tried to become more open and farther number of years back. I mean, there's been a much longer effort to where now it would be, I feel like, pretty rare and really stands out, if you're not openly compatible, between product lines. But in access control, that's been very proprietary. As you said, you're very locked in. So obviously we wanted to change the experience of it being easier. So I think that was a really cool thing that you said there, because it should be easy. Doesn't need to be hard just because it's access control, but just the fact that, there's a product like yours out there that is saying, okay, we're going to build this from the ground up so that, anybody that wants to integrate with us, you can use this hardware. And that's great for the customer, because if they choose to move on to a different system later, they can still use your hardware. They don't have to rip everything out. I mean, it's a really great approach. And I think obviously, when you provide customers good options, good service, good products, and you try to make life easy for them and not try to lock them in against their will, I think customers probably appreciate that and will typically come
Yeah,
back to you again because they want to, not because they have to. And
exactly.
I
Yeah.
like that approach.
Maybe a question for you guys there.
Yeah.
So, in the cloud world that you see, is there more adoption of cameras or access controllers in terms of cloud? Are they, is it kind of the same on the same timeline, or is it a little bit different there?
Do you have an opinion, Aaron? I feel like I'm doing all the
Yeah,
talking.
yeah, I would say, don't get me wrong, there are opportunities that are just access control, and there are opportunities that are just video management. But I mean, personally for Qumulex, when we kind of started pressing the message that, hey, we're a unified solution, we have access and video together and one pane of glass, it kind of opened the floodgates for us and allowed us to really start to compete in the market, because having that ability, and plus our essentially like our core mantra is open architecture. So it kind of feeds right in with your guys' mission statement as well. Having a platform as flexible as Axis, not only from an integration standpoint, because we do integrate, Aperio with the Axis controller with Qumulex, so we can kind of bring that whole family of products together. But in addition to that, giving the customers flexibility of like a single door controller, that's kind of huge right now. And like with your A1210, that we immediately sold a project, having just received the firmware and finished the development, so that product is definitely spectacular. It's kind of fitting a growing need, I should say. I for whatever reason, the new kind of trend is to mount these controllers above the door and, kind of get away from that hub and spoke architecture where you have everything coming back to a tele-data closet, but giving customers that flexibility. That's definitely some stuff that I'm seeing.
And that's definitely the future, because you cut down on a tremendous amount of both labor cost and material cost in running that wiring to the door. And that's how Axis started out, right? I mean, you immediately were an over the door controller. But one thing I appreciate is you recognize that there's a tremendous amount of legacy systems out there, that their first system was installed 20 years ago and they're ready to update, and their wiring's in place, so they're not starting fresh. For them to go back and run a UTP, like a Cat 6 or a Cat 5e to the door is now extra, because what they want to do is utilize what they have there. So I thought that's really impressive to see with that, 1210 series, where that's intended to be something that you can centralize. Now you've kind of partnered up with Life Safety Power, just like we have. And so you're able to put all that together and, be able to accommodate both. But
Yeah, that's the beauty of open architecture, right? As you said, you're focused on too, and all of us being able to work together. And even some of the legacy equipment, it doesn't mean it's bad. It could still work fine. But someone needs to be able to talk to it and make it work for the customer.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And just generically speaking, I think, when you asked about adoption for the cloud, I feel like access control cloud adoption started way ahead of video. And I'm sure that has something to do with bandwidth and everybody's ability to either have enough of a internet speed and bandwidth to deal with that, or whether it's how it's managed better now. But I feel that the two are really coming together now, just like Aaron's saying. I mean, I think for us, as our access control really became mature, along with the video, I think we saw a tremendous change, in our revenue growth, meaning we're bringing on more customers and more people are adopting it. So, I think for us, that's how we started out. I mean, we're unified from day one, and providing both. And I think that's what customers are looking for, again, more than anything, like you said, the easier experience, being able to just get in and go and use it. And it's not hard to do. So I do have a hard hitting question, and I don't want to get too personal here, Drew. So it's okay. Well, we can edit this out if this is a problem. But as a Colts fan, I just happened to notice that you parted ways with a Hall of Fame coach recently, and I just wanted to know how that feels and what you think about the future for your Patriots.
Well, that is a hard hitting question, and I can say it's not easy.
Yeah,
Belichick was just in New England for so long that all of us New Englanders are so used to it, right? We're just so used to him being in charge and hearing about the Patriots and it being Bob Kraft and Belichick and Brady, and now those pieces are starting to crumble away. So we're not dealing with it very well, but hoping for the best. At least one of those pieces, Bob Kraft, is still in place, and
yeah.
so I mean, I hope the best. They have a high draft pick this year, and hopefully they can get someone that can help turn it around. But let's just say it wasn't a very happy season in New England this year.
I think Bob Kraft is maybe sitting in his office right now with a little bit of seller's remorse, wondering if he should have made that decision or not.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, I'm sure it was a tough one. I personally want to see Belichick go and break the record for most wins. So I'm sure he'll get a job next year and go do that. And it'll be really weird watching him on the sideline with their team. But
yeah,
I mean, he's had a great career and it's not over yet.
I guess we have the shared experience with our quarterbacks, having to watch them go somewhere else and win a Super Bowl. But the coach thing seems like when you're done with the Colts, you're done. I don't know that our coaches ever go anywhere ever again. But well, I have like I said, we're all Colts fans around here, but I have a tremendous amount of respect for him and what he did. And I think, man, that's the hard thing, right? Because it's now. And even though collectively it's such an amazing thing, we're watching football now. You'd rather be watching them, play good now. So it's always hard, when that run is over. I think I always feel like, the Patriots and Tiger Woods are two things that we'll probably never see again.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, there's certainly other teams that emerge and look like the next Patriots with Mahomes and the Chiefs and things like that, but
they never are.
It's so hard to stay on top, right? You never know.
No question. Well, Drew, I really appreciate you coming on with us today, and I think also we really appreciate the partnership and how great everybody is to work with, and look forward to many more years of that. Everybody else, thanks for joining us again, and until next time.
Thanks.